A few months back, DC Comics, when they were basically at their lowest period and weren't really producing anything that was worth reading outside of Batman, Superman, World's Finest, things have gotten better since then, but they had an announcement. They were going back to like the new golden age, I guess, going along with this stuff that Jeff Johns had been doing within DC Comics, where he introduced all these new golden age characters, and they were going to revisit some of the classic heroes. And, you know, admittedly, if you just kind of look at the concept and some of the names involved, it felt like it was right up my alley. Robert Venditti writing the original Sandman, the character I would be least interested in out of the three that I'm about to mention right here. But I would read it because it was Robert Venditti, and, you know, I wouldn't mind catching up with the character, maybe learning something, but then they put Riley Rossmo on it, so like, I ain't going to read that. And then you had Jeremy Adams on a Jay Garrick Flash book. I'm definitely going to be reading that one. Two of my favorite writers out there on some good Golden Age characters. They're not going to have to be in continuity, so there's some strong things to it. Obviously, the Riley Rossmo thing just ruined it for my favorite writer, Robert Venditti. And then the third one was an Alan Scott Green Lantern book with Tim Sheridan on it. And I was like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense whatsoever, because I've read enough Robert Venditti and Jeremy Adams books to know, even in the limited amount of comic book writing that Jeremy Adams has done, I've seen enough to know that he knows how to actually go back and research characters. And if you're going to go back to an old character, he's going to explore them in the right way and really do them justice. Obviously, Robert Venditti's resume speaks for itself. See also Hawkman, if you want to see that the guy can go back to old characters and do them justice. And then you have Tim Sheridan, who I personally wouldn't let write a Heathcliff like comic strip, let alone a DC comic book featuring a major character like Green Lantern. In this case, the very first Green Lantern, Alan Scott, from the Golden Age itself. It just seemed really odd. It put me off, and I was like, well, I won't be reading that one, because I've actually read a Tim Sheridan comic book in my lifetime, and I realized it's just not worth the effort and the headache. And once again, Tim Sheridan proves me right. He's going out there at San Diego Comic-Con, and he's explaining what he's going to do with this comic book. And I am I'm fed up. I'm tired of DC and Marvel letting these shitty new age hack writers go into the past and just whole cloth change characters, characteristics, motivations, their backstories. Stop letting Jason Aaron do it. And Jason Aaron might as well be fucking Alan Moore in comparison to Tim Sheridan, and certainly stop letting Tim Sheridan do it. This is the information that we do have. At San Diego Comic-Con, DC Comics surprised fans with news about the upcoming addition to the new Golden Age. Tim Sheridan promised a unique take on Alan Scott's Green Lantern. Sheridan states, the Alan Scott series I'm writing doesn't take place in the present day, mostly. We see Alan discover all sorts of things in his life in real time. In fact, you're going to see Alan's origin as the Green Lantern played out from a new angle with new information. We're sort of learning it all in real time as he's learning it. And here's the thing, you're not actually learning anything in real time. You're just breaking what has already been established. And it's not like we don't have a pretty famous creator as one of the original creators of Alan Scott. You know, Bill Finger's not a nobody. In fact, if you were just to look at maybe a 6-month period of Bill Finger's life, he accomplished more than you probably ever will in your entire career. Why do we keep letting idiots like Tim Sheridan go back to revamp characters for that modern audience? This is a Golden Age character. It speaks to a time in American history, in comic book history, and I think the character works just fine on his own. I don't need to see Tim Sheridan's, or for that matter, I don't need to see Robert Venditti's or Jeremy Adams' new interpretation about the origin of the character. That's why I don't have to worry about this new Flash series or Sandman series, because those creators actually respect the history of the comic book industry, the history of the characters, and the history of the creators, to actually go back and try and destroy something that someone legendary like a Bill Finger actually created. And what makes it all so much worse is I absolutely know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. Everybody knows what's going to happen. This idiot is going to go back and try to reestablish the origins of a character whose origins are completely already established. And if you're a Green Lantern fan, they're a lot different than Hal Jordan. They're a lot different than Guy Gardner. They're a lot different than John Stewart or Kyle Rayner or Jess Cruz or Simon Bass or whatever Green Lantern you like. This is a wholly unique character within the Green Lantern mythos. In fact, he wasn't even part of the Guardians or whatever that thing is. He never got a power ring. You know, he discovered like a lantern and it was like the star or something. I can't remember all the details of it, but he was like on a trade trip or something like that. This is a cool character, and he doesn't need to be re-fleshed out by an absolute moron that has never actually created anything worth a damn in his entire comic book writing career. Not that it's been all that long, but we've seen enough from Tim Sheridan to know that he absolutely sucks at writing comic books. Fans can expect to explore the first Green Lantern's life during the 30s and 40s and witness Alan's struggles as a closeted gay hero coming to terms with his identity and his responsibilities as the Green Lantern. Alan is brand new at this, and he's still figuring out what exactly he has at his fingertips. He doesn't even know the extent of what he can do with his power, but he will learn throughout the story and gain a greater understanding of his capabilities by the end, said Tim Sheridan. See, this is the really big problem, and it goes back all the way to, the Green Lantern 80th Anniversary Special, where James Tynion decided, because the Earth 1 Green Lantern, not all that long ago, was identified as being a gay character, that now the Earth Prime Green Lantern also needed to be gay, even though it contradicts the entire history of the character and the entire intention of why he was created and what the creators and originators and DC Comics actually wanted to do with the character. Stop going back to the past and trying to fix it. Now that James Tynion has gone to the past and tried to fix it and recontextualize the origin of Alan Scott Green Lantern, now a dipshit idiot that actually doesn't know how to write comic books, Tim Sheridan has to go back further and reflesh it out and ruin the character even further. We don't ever get to see Alan Scott. And when we do see him, nobody cares anymore because they've ruined interest in the character. When's the last time we saw Alan Scott be a big deal? It was during Infinite Frontier, right? We just got done with Future State. Josh Williamson had an event book, Infinite Frontier, and one of the main aspects of it was Alan Scott, Green Lantern, and his kids doing something. I don't even remember because after 2 issues, I didn't pick up the series again. And guess what? Nobody that was a fan of Alan Scott, the Green Lantern, was excited about the book because they had already gone out there and butchered the character and changed who he was and basically erased all the stories that have ever been written about the character up until that point. Because these guys are absolutely idiots. They don't understand how destructive you are when you go back and just change altogether who a character is at his core from the very beginning. It means that if you invested 20 years into a character and you bought every single issue that character was ever in, none of it ended up mattering after that because all of it was some type of fever dream and it all needs to be rewritten because now the character was never that to begin with. That's why these things never pan out. That's why they always break. And of course, James Tynion isn't even at fucking DC Comics anymore. He never even attempted to flesh out the character further or maybe explain how it worked out in this timeline. But it still needs to be explored, right? We got a new gay character and we've got a gay writer, Tim Sheridan. We got to give it to him. I am so tired of them going back and breaking characters and then handing them over when they cast the new writer based on having the same gender identity, the same sexual identity, the same racial identity. It's the fucking most maddening thing in the world. Is creating a new Golden Age miniseries about Alan Scott, further exploring his adventures, the worst idea ever? Well, absolutely not. There's always room for a miniseries. There's always a story that was never told. But is wholly revamping the character from his sexuality up, going all the way back to the 30s and then handing that character over to Tim Sheridan a bad idea? You're damn right it is. And DC Comics at this point should know better. The series is part of the larger New Golden Age event and seeks to reintroduce readers to the Justice Society of America and other beloved Golden Age characters while exploring the past, present, and future of the DC multiverse. One of the most significant revelations from Sheridan's interview was the return of the mysterious Golden Age Red Lantern, who was once removed from DC's timeline. And this twist promises to shake the very foundation of Alan's life and adventure. Sheridan promises readers would discover the interconnectedness between the power of the Green Lantern and the Red Lantern, shedding light on why these two forces are so profoundly connected. They're not profoundly connected. They never have been. The Green Lantern Corps and the Yellow Lanterns have obviously been profoundly connected for a very long time, mostly because of obviously Sinestro and Hal Jordan and their fights over the years. And even the original Green Lantern, I believe his weakness was wood because it was yellow or something. It was Golden Age comic books. It was a different time. But this is also adding new stuff. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, there's a cool Red Lantern out there. His name is Atrocitus. And you can probably just leave the Red Lanterns at that. It's not all that interesting. Yes, Jeff Johns did introduce, like, the new colored Green Lantern Corps where, there was different colors that represented everything. And then, like, the Red Lantern Corps represented rage. And the coolest thing they got out of that was you got to see who would have been Red Lanterns during Darkest Night. And other than that, you know, Atrocitus is a cool villain hero sometimes, but he's mostly just a villain. And that's about it. Like, there's not really much more you can do with it. Now we got fucking genius A-list writer Tim Sheridan here is going to go back into the past and recontextualize how it was really the Red Lanterns that were the big adversaries of the Green Lanterns from the very beginning. Because will and range are completely opposite. What's the point, man? I understand, like... That's why I didn't even want Jeff Johns doing this new Golden Age stuff. Yeah, I like Jeff Johns. As soon as they announced what it was and what they were trying to do, I was like, why don't you get your house in order before you start introducing all these stupid new concepts that you yourself will never be able to finish? And guess what? How late is his JSA book now? Is it 6 months behind schedule again? Stop letting Jeff Johns come into the comic book world if he doesn't want to be there. It's like, it gets frustrating after that. Because once he drops the ball, it's got to be picked up by somebody, and it's never anybody good. This is fucking Tim Sheridan and all these bullshit writers. This guy is the fucking worst. And everything he's done at DC Comics so far has been an absolute bust. It's been a joke. His entire Teen Titans Academy is a joke. Go and try to read that. I dare you. The man doesn't know how to research characters or histories or the universe or actually even write new characters, because that was the entire purpose of Teen Titans Academy. It wasn't to tell a good Teen Titans story. It wasn't to tell a story about the next generations of Teen Titans. It was so Tim Sheridan could introduce like 10 new LGBTQ plus characters into the universe. And he talked about it all in this interview. This dude is an enormous joke. And the bigger joke is that DC Comics still fucking hires this guy. Absolutely pathetic. There's also a link in the video description.